Okay, my project is on architecture. How can I teach about architecture and show you the steps needed to create a building plan using architecture? Architecture is the profession of designing buildings, houses, interior buildings and houses, land, and other things. It can also be considered a work of art. Architects take a lot of measurements, they sketch and use architectural software, make digital sketches on a computer. Then they polish it up and try to start construction. Obviously, there's a lot more than that, but I'll try to get more into detail later. There are interior design architects who help design the interior of the building, commercial architects who design commercial buildings for bigger clients, residential architects who design, you guessed it, houses for smaller clients, green design architects that work with the climate, landscape architects that work with the landscape around the building, urban designers who are architects but focus on the art side of it. And I also wanted to bring up architectural engineers who use physics to make it more safe for other people to be in the building. The skills you need to do architecture are proficiency in math, so you have good measurements, you don't make any mistakes. Drawing, so it's more easily, some people might be able to understand it better physically, and you don't want to mess it up. So that's why you need to get drawing. And then you also need to know how to work with computers because the software might be confusing for some people. And you also need to know how some physics because you might want to make the building safer. How do architects design buildings? Architects need to consult the client to get a basic understanding of the house or building they want. Then they need to draw a rough sketch, either on paper or digital. And they can proceed to making more and more refined versions with exact measurements to feet and meters. They also have to design the safety of the building, like the foundation of the said building or house they're going to create for their client. They also need to have to work with the plot of land they get to use. If they're going to reform the land to make a smoother foundation and stronger structure for the building, then they have to start construction. I'm not going to do this all, I'm just going to glance over it. So a more in-depth way of describing how an architect makes building is he needs to meet up with the client who describes to the architect a basic idea of what they want their building to look from the outside. So the architect can build onto that, showing the plot of land you own, what you want to be remodeled. Then he also needs to keep in mind what the building will be used for. And then the architect draws a rough sketch. Then the architect figures out what dimensions and measurements the building and rooms should be, how tall it should be, how wide it should be, how long it should be. This also directly ties in with what type of building it is. What type of building is going to be, like offices, bedrooms, yard. Then they can start to make more and more progress and make more and more refined drafts of the building. Like I said, they also need to keep in mind the structural durability of the building. They also need to keep in mind the client's budget. And then they can finally start to approve to get construction. There's also a good amount of software for architectural purposes, most well known as CAD software. It's one of the best architectural software programs. It is also they don't just make architecture software though. There's also SketchUp, which is one of the most user friendly. Revit, which lets you see 2D and 3D models of the building you created. 3D Max Studio, which is one of the best 3D programs for architecture. So there's stuff like V-Ray, which is a rendering program that lets you see it super realistically. And there's also used Photoshop because architects need to make mock-ups of the building as well. Architecture is pretty complex. Like I said in my slide, where you need the skills to be a professional architect. You need to be good at drawing. Being good at drawing will help a lot when trying to design a building. It makes it more clear what you want to show to the person that you're showing your plans to. You also need to have an idea of what the measurements are going to be, so you can put a basic idea of the measurements next to the floor plan drawing. You also need to keep in mind the land that you think would be around your building. How much would be the building? How much would be the land? You should keep this all in mind if you wanted to see it in 3D. You could try and put it in an architecture program, but due to accessibility, learning curve, and time constraints, I won't be able to do this in my project. To be a professional architect and get a professional architecture license, you will need to have over 12.8 years of studying. That's the average. Career development of practice and exams to get your license. This includes a 5-year bachelor's degree program in architecture. The rest is the AXP and the ARE. The AXP is a comprehensive training program, and the ARE is the big exam that lets you get your professional architecture degree license. You can also try to get a master's degree, which is a better degree. Fun facts about architecture: 2 in 5 new architects are women. Less than 1 in 5 new architects identify as racial or ethnic minority. Architecture was once an Olympic sport too. Lego used to make special bricks for architectural purposes called Modulex. The Sims video game was originally an architectural simulator before it became a life simulator. The person who crashed a plane into the North Tower during 9/11 was an architect. And here are my floor plans. It's kind of hard to see. And here are my sources. Thank you for listening to my project. It was really long, so it was kind of hard to put it with a 5-minute limit, but thanks for watching.